there, friends. Dave Paulides, Can-Am Missing, and that is Huck L. Berry. How you doing, Huck? Huh? Good puppy. He's a good puppy. She got all brushed real nice today. I swear she knows when she's all puffed out and pretty and the coat's all smooth. She prances around like she's a queen. Well, she is a queen. She's a good girl. Well, thank you for being here. I appreciate each and every one of you. And some missing persons. A little update. I watched another version of Missing 411 National Parks today. And I'm highly impressed. We've come a long way. We're well on our way to finishing on time in 2026. So things are good. Now you may wonder, well, Dave, you just released American Sasquatch, Man, Myth, or Monster. You're right. The team's been working hard. And I try to under-promise and over-deliver in everything I do. And sometimes things sacrifice because of that. Usually it's my own private time. But I don't like to disappoint people. So, the Missing 411 movie, on track, everything is good. Premiere is, we're working on where it's going to be right now. Hopefully we'll know soon, so you guys can prepare. And you're going to be surprised. That's all I'll say. You're going to be surprised. So, in this segment of Missing People, we're going to talk about something I usually don't talk about. But during my career as a policeman, oftentimes I went to a home where a teenager disappeared. At the time, the parents didn't know if the teenager ran away, was abducted. They didn't know. And those are the tough ones, because you have to kind of play that worst card possible. And sometimes the resources to find these teenagers aren't huge. And families and parents and people have to jump on board to help. Just a fact. In the US every year, there's tens of thousands of reports of missing teenagers. When you read a news organization say, oh yeah, there were 2 million people that went missing last year and 500,000 of them they can't find. Don't believe it. Don't believe it. Every time a teenager goes missing, police take a report. That report's entered into the system. That's one missing person. Teenager comes home the next day, they're taken out of the system, that's still one missing person case. That's right. So that's how all those statistics get skewed. And in reality, it's probably less than 0.25% of any of those huge numbers you see that are even remotely suspicious. Most of them are people who want to just fall out of society, disappear, and there's no crime against that. Now today, the first story I'm going to talk to you about, when I first read it, I thought, wow, this kid has a lot of guts. And then the more I read about it, the more scared I got. It's about a young boy named James Yablonski. This is James. 13 years old, went missing June 12th, 2023 at 10:30 p.m. from his home in Reedsburg, Wisconsin. He lived with his dad and his 3 brothers and sisters. Reedsburg is about 45 miles northwest of Madison. So James comes across as an independent sort, and maybe acting a lot older than his years. He'd been talking to friends about embarking on a survivalist mission. Unclear when, where, or how. That's all that was known. But the family goes to bed on June 12th. They wake up the next morning, and sometime during the night, James took the family van, his father's cell phone, and supplies, and took off. The family woke the next morning. James was gone, along with the van and the cell and everything else. Well, if I was the parent, I would be pretty upset, to say the least. But every family's different. Every family handles these things differently. And number one, you want your son back. Now, whether that takes the police going out and dragging their butt back into the home, or negotiating with him somehow to get back there, get back to the home. So the Sauk, S-A-U-K, county sheriffs enter the case, and they enter the family van into NCIC, the National Computer Information Center for the USA on missing vehicles. He didn't have permission to take it, so technically it's joyriding or theft, depending on how you write it. Nobody knew exactly what James was planning at the time, and nobody knew at the time that he was going to leave. Well, Sauk County did something that was pretty smart. They pinged Bill Yablonski, his dad's cell phone that was taken. And they also searched the computers that James had access to see what he was searching for. And he was searching for how to survive in the outdoors and how to travel out of state. I'll tell you, the kid was way older than his years. So they pinged the cell phone, and they found out that the phone was near, catch this, Devil's Lake State Park. Here's a map. Here's Reedsburg, where he lived. It's about a 22-minute drive, or 15 miles. Here's Devil's Lake State Park. And he was near a place called Baraboo. So the sheriff says, oh, okay, we can follow these clues. So they drive out there, and they find the van. I'm not making fun of this police work. Trust me. They did a good job. They found the van. They got the van back to the family. They searched the van. Couldn't find much in there. But they decide, and it was parked in a rural area on Highway 112. And they decide that they're going to call out a search and rescue. I'm sorry, Highway 12, not 112, Highway 12 in Baraboo. So the sheriffs get together, the family members, and they go into that area with canines, and they start searching. Well, the sheriff said that he found a campsite that he thought was used by James. And they thought from that point that they could use the dogs to continue to track him. But the dogs weren't able to track. So that's pretty weird. They searched for 3 days. And then they got frustrated with the lack of clues, and the family took over and they kept searching. And they searched for a long time. They didn't find anything additional. And James didn't call his family. Kind of weird, eh? So a year after James disappears, the family gave an interview to a news organization. And they felt, and they said this, that they believe James still is in that area of that park. Bill, the father, said that no tips have come in and no witnesses have reported seeing him. So, a 13-year-old kid doesn't have a lot of resources. They don't have a lot of life skills to reside on either, or to stand on either. And because of that, the idea that he's still living in that park, I don't believe it. He may be deceased in the park, but he's not living there. Because if he was living there, he would have been seen. And people seeing a younger person like that would have offered him things, would have called the police, etc. None of that happened. Another year goes by. Now, 2-year anniversary. Bill's interviewed. He says that this has taken a huge toll on he and his family. He says he loses sleep thinking about his son every night. I totally believe that. I know what that's like. He says his other 3 kids have kept him motivated. Without them, he says, I don't know where I'd be. He says that they've pushed him to try to find James. He also said that he was frustrated with the South County sheriffs and their lack of intensity and follow-up. Now, I understand the perspective that he has. The reality of this is, when a family member's missing, there's never enough you can do. Just the facts. Unless a detective is assigned 24/7, 365, I doubt that any family is really going to think that enough resources are poured into that case. Detective Steinhorst has the case and he said that he's been in contact with Bill and has informed him of every lead that was developed, and every lead has led nowhere. Bill wants to tell his son that if he watches the interview, or if he, James Yablonski, you're 15 now, if you're watching this somewhere on somebody's YouTube channel, call your dad. Call your brothers and sisters. Do the right thing. I don't care what you think, but you should have some empathy about their feelings as well, and they care about you. He asked his son to come home. He said, you aren't in trouble. We're not going to press any charges. We just want you home. I think it's important to say this because families often misinterpret this. Young kids, when they run away, the police can forcibly take them into custody. And we have choices. We can put them in a shelter for troubled kids. Sometimes it's not the greatest place. Or we can transport them to the parents' home, or we can transport them to a relative's home. It kind of all depends on the circumstances. Now, there were only a few times in my career that I remember dealing with a 12 or 13-year-old that hadn't committed a crime, but had just run away, but was a complete pain in the butt. And I could see that the family was frustrated about what to do and how to handle it. And they didn't have the resources to hire a counselor and go through it all. They were just kind of blue-collar types. And at the time, the county services in Santa Clara County where I worked, they weren't the best. So I really felt for the family. And I could tell that whatever I said to this young person, it was So yeah, life is rough. And when you have a child like that, it's even worse. Now, in this case, truthfully, if I was Bill, the dad, and I knew where James was located and he wouldn't come home, I would press charges. Just me, speaking outside the box. Well, why, Dave? Because I'd force him into custody. And I would let a juvenile court judge dictate what happens to him. taking a van, taking a phone, taking supplies, and just running off and not caring about the family having transportation, dad having phone for work. Doesn't show a lot of care for anybody else. And without placing charges on the young boy, you really can't control him. And maybe he needs to stay in custody for a while and look at four walls and think about his future. That's just me. I may be all wrong. Circumstances may dictate something altogether different. So the question is, why would James leave and not tell anyone, like his brothers or sisters? Did he go on a survivalist journey, or did he go out of state? Canines couldn't pick up a scent out there, so something weird happened. He didn't take the van to the airport. The van was there. So where is he? Cadaver dogs later on didn't pick up a scent either. As much as a public service message this is also a message to all family members of other people out there all over. These aren't easy things to deal with. And as we all know, young people are complex beings. Keep them very close. Keep open communication with your kids. Look them right in the eyes every night and tell them how much you love them. I don't care what they're doing to you. You're always going to love them. So as I'm investigating this case, the weirdest thing happened. So I'm researching the Yablonski case, and there's an interview conducted with family members helping out in the search and rescue for James. And this news lady is interviewing James's aunt, a lady named Mary Wagner. And she says, oh, why are you out here? And are you guys making any success? Blah, blah, blah. And she made a comment that she hoped that James is found and it turns out better than it did for her daughter. What? Another case in the same family? Yeah. Her daughter name is Laurie Depies, 20 years old, missing August 19th, 1992. I'll show you a few pictures of Laurie. Laurie was working a swing shift at the graffiti store at the Fox River Mall in Appleton, Wisconsin on August 19th, 1992. There's a few pictures of her. This was a composite picture of what she looked like the night when she was leaving the mall. So at about 10 p.m., she's leaving the mall, and a coworker is walking her to her car. Nice thing to do. And she was walking to her 1984 VW Rabbit. During the conversation, she goes, yeah, I'm going to my boyfriend's house for the night. Her coworker said she saw her drive away without issue, alone. Nobody around, nothing else seen. All right, that's good. Sounds healthy. Sounds normal. Now, Laurie is going from the Fox River Mall in Appleton to her boyfriend's house here. About a 5-mile drive that would normally take about 14 minutes. This here is Winnebago Lake. This is Menasha. Appleton right here. Fairly straight drive, not a lot of issues. Pay attention to this story because it gets weird. That's 10 o'clock. About a 15-minute drive. She made the 5-mile drive to the boyfriend's apartment complex. She made it 100 times. The apartment complex was the 300 block of West Wilson in Menasha, Wisconsin. Laurie's boyfriend was in his apartment with his sister and a friend waiting for her inside. As they're there, this is a warm night, they got the windows open, they hear her drive up, familiar sound of the VW Rabbit. They hear her park the car, don't hear anything else. And they waited. They figured she was walking up. Wait, nothing. Finally, they go out to look for her, and they found her car locked right where they thought it would be. And they look inside, and her purse is inside, and her overnight bag is inside. No sign of her anywhere. They didn't hear any screams. Nothing seemed out of place at the scene. The only oddity, this is an actual picture of her car and what was found. The only oddity is on the top of her car was a styrofoam cup half filled with soda. This is her car. This is where she parked. This is an actual picture of it. Now, you're the boyfriend, you're her, and the boyfriend's sister's all there. What do you make of that? Well, the police were called after the boyfriend calls her mom, and a missing person report was filed. Police come out, they check the cup, take the cup. They later said that there was a smudged thumbprint, and the thumb was the size of a man on the cup, but the print was unusable. So hold your taters right there. So back in 1992, they didn't have advanced DNA like they do now. Those lips of whoever had that cup, touch that cup, you can get DNA off the cup. I'm just saying. I hope they still have the cup, and I hope somebody tested it. So the police come out, they work up the crime scene, but there's really no crime scene, there's nothing. They knock on the doors of all the apartments in the area, nobody heard anything, nobody saw anything. Detectives scoured that complex for days, trying to find all the witnesses they could. Nothing unusual. And then one detective had this case for decades, as he was promoted up from detective sergeant to lieutenant. And then he retired. He was later interviewed, and he said it was his opinion that she must have left the area with somebody she trusted and knew. Otherwise, she would have put up a fight, there would have been torn clothing, articles on the ground, etc. But if that was the case, how many women would voluntarily go to somebody else's apartment, even if they knew them really well, and leave your purse in the car? To me, that seems odd. I'm not a woman, I don't have a purse, but I don't know. You women know. So no arrests have ever been made. No prosecutions have ever been attempted. In 2010, now this is where the story gets strange. A man named Larry Dwayne Hall was serving a life sentence for kidnapping a 15-year-old girl in North Carolina. And he came forward and he confessed to killing Laurie, following her to the parking lot, abducting her, and dumping her body in the forest. Okay. The detectives tried to establish linkage between Laurie and the killer. Establish he was in the area, establish a DNA connection, establish his car was there, he was at a gas, something. They couldn't. Now, some of you may say, well, Dave, he confessed, he must be guilty. No, that's not true. Let me tell you something. This is important to know. Serial killers are often extremely smart people. That's why they're not caught. They're very careful. They are in custody at this point. They're bored. And they like to play mind games. And they like to be amused and entertained. Which is why they're in custody for their life, so they know that nothing more can be done to them. So if they confess to something, they know that they're going to maybe get driven around, looking for the crime scene. They're going to be talking to people they don't know. They can play mind games. And trust me, folks, this goes on all the time. Unless you can establish the linkage or you can find the body, you really can't treat the confession as important. Unless the suspect, whoever that might be, can tell you something that nobody knows about the crime scene or about the victim. Oh yeah, she had a big scar on her stomach that was 3 inches long, something like that. But there's no crime scene. And he couldn't supply a crime scene. Kind of get what I'm saying? Now, Fox Crossing Police made a public statement that I think is important. None of the detectives showed any emphasis or belief in what that killer said. Fox Crossing Police gave an interview and said, I'll quote it, "It's like Laurie vanished into thin air." That's the quote. How many times have I told you that about these cases? And then the reporter said the question as to what happened to Laurie has confounded police for decades. Now, since the primary detective on the case retired, the case was handed off to the Wisconsin Department of Justice. And they now have the case. One family, two very strange disappearances. I'm just saying. I think they're very, very strange. And entirely different. Just for the record, what I did was, this is where James Yablonski disappeared, and this is where Laurie disappeared. It's 126 miles apart, 2 hours and 18 minutes. I'm not implying in any way they are related, and in fact, this kind of shows that they are not. I made a comment several weeks ago, and somebody jumped all over me. And what I said was the FBI doesn't investigate straight missing persons cases, adults. They have a special statute that says that they can investigate young children that disappear, under 4 or under 5. Unless there's criminal activity. Well, of course, they're the FBI. That makes it no longer a straight up missing person case. Now it's a criminal case, okay? Now, the FBI put out this bulletin on Laurie. Let me read you what it says. August 19th, 92, a coworker walked Laurie Jean Depies to her vehicle after work at the Fox River Mall. Her vehicle was heard coming into a parking lot of her boyfriend's apartment complex in Appleton, Wisconsin. However, Depies never entered the apartment. The boyfriend's sister and her friends searched for Depies in the parking lot to no avail. They found her vehicle locked with a styrofoam cup of soda on top. Foul play is suspected in Depies' disappearance. For additional information and photographs regarding the victim, refer to the National Missing and Unidentified Missing Persons Case NamUs database. A NamUs case means that the police went out and they got DNA from the relatives. So if you have a body somewhere that you think this is Laurie, then you can match it with the NamUs case. Suspicious circumstances. Why would the FBI be involved? That's a really good question. There's no evidence of a crime, and in fact, the local police said that. The FBI is not investigating. They just put out a bulletin. Big difference there, folks. But does it make any sense that Laurie disappeared? No, it doesn't. Would I, if I was the family, hope the FBI would take the case? Oh, heck yeah. But they won't. So that's kind of the murky waters we deal in on missing people. I want to thank you for being here. You are greatly appreciated. Kindness is important. And sometimes I will highlight a case here that may not seem to be a missing 411 case, but I'm doing it for the public good. I think from these two cases that I just talked to you about, hopefully we can learn something about them that'll help somebody down the road and maybe give some visibility to something. Maybe someone was sitting in a bar somewhere in Wisconsin 10 years ago and somebody was bragging about killing somebody, a pretty girl leaving a mall. Well, take that off your conscience. Call the Wisconsin Department of Justice and come forward. Be a good soul. And in the meantime, if you see James Yablonski out there, turn him into the police. He needs to be at home. Be safe. Be kind. Paulides out.